Hey everybody, we're back here at Red Rock for the Sports Betting Podcast Bookends, powered by STN Sports. As you know, he's Jason, I'm Chucky, and we're going to dive right into it. Week 0 was last week in college football. This is week 1. So there's some big games, some marquee games, including UNLV's first road test this week. Last week they struggled a little bit at home, still got the W. That line moved crazy, yet it was good for our side of the counter. They won, but they didn't cover. But there's some big games this week, Jay.
Oh, monster matchups, obviously headlined by the Texas-Ohio State matchup. We also have Clemson-LSU, Notre Dame, Miami. Before we dig in to college football this week, quick shout out, Summerlin South Little League, U.S. champions. Woo-hoo! Absolutely fantastic. Again, congratulations, boys, families, coaches. So very proud of the Summerlin South Little League team representing Nevada as U.S. champions.
Yeah, it's awesome. They played so well. We had some good crowds watching the games in here. It was just fun to see these boys with their enthusiasm and their excitement and just the smiles on their faces, even the tears of joy in games that they won. They had a phenomenal run in the tournament, and again, congratulations, as Jay said. Let's dive into college football a little bit now. So let's look at the slate this week, Jay. Texas and Ohio State. Arch Manning. This game has gone from Ohio U from a 2-point favorite. It's down to 2 from 3. Arch Manning, as I said, gets his start. Texas just 2-5 in their last 7 games against the number. Ohio State 14-1 straight up in their last 15 at home. Texas 10-0 straight up in their last 10 road games. So something has to give here with a really low point spread.
Well, I think this is something that you're going to want to sit down for with Arch Manning making his first start at Texas. This could be a guy that we're talking about. Obviously, we know Eli Manning, we know Archie Manning, we know Peyton Manning, and is this just another line in the chain of the incredible Mannings?
What happened to Cooper Manning?
Cooper.
Okay, just want to make sure we showed all the brothers some love.
Sarkisian getting this young man. This is everybody wanted him. He's at Texas. This is what they've been looking forward to. This is the second time these teams are actually going to play this year, as Ohio State knocked them off 28-14 in the national semifinal last year before Ohio State went on to win it all. But this is a kind of a tale of some different teams. Obviously, we had Quinn Ewers and Will Howard as the quarterback matchup last year. Now it's Arch Manning versus redshirt freshman, going to be making his first start, Julian Sand for Ohio State. Texas has 9 returning starters, 3 on offense, 6 on defense. Ohio State has 9 returning starters, 6 on offense, 3 on defense. Texas specifically, 4 new offensive linemen, so they have to replace basically the whole offensive line. But on the flip side, Ohio State, 4 new defensive linemen. They're replacing their whole defense. Couple of guys you should know about. Caleb Downs, he's the number 1 safety probably in the country, plays for Ohio State, going to be a top draft pick, and then potentially the number 1 wide receiver in the company. Outside of the quarterback, should be a Heisman Trophy favorite in Jeremiah Smith at the wide receiver position. I could probably talk for about an hour on this game and what it's going to mean. And obviously, playing this early, it hurts the loser. But again, the loser of this game is going to battle their way back to being in the playoff, and it sets the winner up to obviously be the number 1 team in the country until they lose. But one of the things that you constantly talk about as you handicap these early season games, going back for decades, was always about those returning starters.
Right.
How many returning starters guys have. And I don't know how much weight to put into that anymore with the transfer portal and the nil money, and especially when we're talking about teams at the top of the nation with the nil money that Texas and Ohio State have, the Notre Dames, the Clemsons, the LSUs. These teams can just buy their brand new players, and they're getting these kids that are 2- and 3-year starters from other programs. So the returning starters, I don't think we should put that much weight into it. Maybe the first starts with these teams, but again, this is something you definitely want to sit down for. This is going to be one of the games of the year.
It's phenomenal. As you said, it is game 1. Hurts the loser a little bit, but I think with the expanded playoff format, it's not as catastrophic as it once was. So it is a great game to kind of kick off the season. As I said, the numbers kind of gone down a little bit. We'll see where it ultimately goes, but what a great gate game to kick it off. Now look, another game with 2 top 10 teams. LSU and Clemson. Clemson opened up 3. This game went up to 4. A couple of interesting trends here. LSU just 2-4 in their last 6 games against the number. Clemson just 1-6 in their last 7 games against the number versus SEC opponents. So something has to give there a little bit too. But Clemson was a little bit of a down year last year. We'll see how they can bounce back against LSU right now in this game. And they're a 4-point favorite.
Preseason rankings: Clemson is the 4, LSU is the 9. And for me, this is a Heisman Trophy matchup. Again, Arch Manning, heavy favorite for the Heisman Trophy. But Cade Klubnik for Clemson, Garrett Nussmeier for LSU. We're talking about probably 2 of the top 6 quarterbacks in the country. A matchup here. I can tell you what about this game. Give me the Tigers in this game, as we got the Clemson Tigers versus the LSU Tigers. Both teams, their home stadium is essentially called Death Valley. Obviously, that's going to come into play here. But again, I talk about the returning starters. Clemson, 16 returning starters. LSU, 7 returning starters. The big difference for me in this game is LSU and Brian Kelly. Underneath Brian Kelly, they come out of the gates slowly. Losses in their first game to Florida State in 2022 and 2023, and last year they lost their first game
that was
to,
here
to
Vegas
USC.
At Allegiant Stadium. Right.
So again, LSU's got to kind of flip the script and get an early season win, as they've lost the last 3 years in that first game.
But both these 2 games, really good early season games. We're going to touch on too, real quick, for Friday night's game, and that's UNLV and Sam Houston. I know we touched on it a little bit earlier. UNLV was 8-0 last year on games on the road, 4-1-1 against the spread their last 5 games against Conference USA opponents. And you look at Sam Houston last year, 6 straight games to finish the season, they went under. UNLV had a lot of points scored in this last game against Idaho State, but when Sam Houston's at home, a lot of unders right now. UNLV sits at a double-digit favorite in this one.
I think it would be very difficult to play any UNLV game under after watching that first game, because Idaho State, who said, respect that offense, respect that offensive line, but Idaho State puts up 31 points on them. Idaho State gains 555 yards of offense. UNLV coincidentally put up 532 yards of offense. But one of the things I also looked at, we talked about the Sam Houston State team. They got beat up by Western Kentucky 41-24 in week 0, and they allowed 506 yards of offense, 401 yards passing, 105 on the ground, and UNLV had 300 yards on the ground against Ohio State. So tough to play Sam Houston under. I think this is a game that we're going to see a lot of points. But again, we talked about UNLV and a lack of returning starters. I think that kind of showed in that week 1 or week 0. Good offense, not so much on the defense, where we saw needing a bunch of replacement parts. And I think we could see that again here, where they struggle on the defensive side, especially on the road.
Yep. So we've talked about games, college games on Friday, Saturday, and now we have one on Sunday as well, which is a great game. You've got Notre Dame traveling to Miami of Florida. This game's gone from 2.5 to 3 to 2.5. Really great matchup as well. So been really lucky that we've got so many great matchups this weekend. A couple interesting betting trends here, guys. Notre Dame was 11-1 against the spread last year in 12 games. 13-1 straight up their last 14. 12-3 against the spread their last 15 on the road. And you look at Miami 6-0 in their games at home last year. So can Notre Dame go in there, small favorite, and pull off the victory?
Well, they had a magical season last year, and what Freeman was able to do with that squad. And the big thing here is obviously the quarterback change at Notre Dame. He named C.J. Carr the starter. Somewhat controversial that he named Carr the starter, but that's who he's going to go with. And I don't know that Notre Dame is going to flow through the quarterback position anyway, because they've got who I would say is one of the top, if not the top running back in the country in Jeremiah Love. Put up over 1,100 yards rushing last year, had 17 touchdowns. That Notre Dame offense is going to flow heavily through Jeremiah Love. And on the flip side, we get to see the Georgia transfer to Miami, the multi-million-dollar NIL guy in Carson Beck. Had some success at Georgia, but obviously success at Georgia is winning a national championship. Wasn't able to do that there. Transfers to Miami, gets a bunch of money.
Highly paid NIL money.
Got a lot of good guys around him. Again, Notre Dame 11 returning starters, Miami 8 returning starters. Again, another game that you're going to want to flip on, as this will be a telling sign for where these teams are going to go throughout the rest of the year. Really,
some good games for Week 1 of college football. But with that said, don't forget you still have time to get signed up for the college football Last Man Standing, where we guarantee $100K is an aggregate payout in case there's multiple winners. $150K guaranteed in the pro, same format, but for a $25 entry fee. I know there's some big contests out there, but $25 gets you a chance to win either $100 or $150K. It's just both great contest, our STN Sports signature contest. And don't forget, get signed up for STN Sports. It really does bring the sportsbook to the palm of your hand, and that $50, up to $50, no worry wager still going on.
Yeah, and you brought up last man standing, and the key thing, obviously college football starting this week, but we don't start college last man standing this week. We mirror it up to pair up with the pros. So you still have that week and a week and a half to sign up for both the college last man standing, the pro last man standing. Still only $25. Buy 4 entries, get a 5th entry free. Pick a winner in that week 1 against the point spread, advance to week 2, and take home those big prizes.
Yeah, just to clarify, $25 per entry. So if you do the 4 entries, it's $100. You do get the 5th one free. But really good contest right now. Our signature contest, and for a small investment, you have a chance for a really nice payday. So don't forget, get signed up for Last Man Standing today. As we kind of touched on, this is fantasy football season. Everyone's going to have their drafts this week. There's a lot of excitement going on, and we're going to kind of give you some of our opinions and the guys we really like, guys and we don't like so much, and guys that we think really might drop off the face of the map just a little bit. I think before we dive into it, though, it's really important to know the scoring of your league. Know if it's if touchdowns are with 4 points or 6 points, how the flex option works, how the waiver wire works, if it's 10 teams or 12 leagues, and really kind of dive in and do your homework a little bit. There's nothing wrong with really liking a player and overdrafting him instead of being sorry that you didn't draft him. But I think it's really important to know the rules in your league.
Yeah, tough to win the contest on draft day. Obviously, you got to pay attention to waivers throughout the year, but you can lose your fantasy football league on draft day. You can draft bad, put yourself in bad situations, not pay attention to bye weeks, and overreach your players, or just take guys that are too injury prone and take flat out the wrong player. So hopefully we give you a little bit of advice here. But again, one of the most important things that I can recommend is knowing those league rules, and definitely the difference between being in a 10-man league and a 12-man league when it comes to the quarterbacks. Very, very different drafting in those leagues.
And the PPR versus non-PPR,
yeah, half
PPR, right.
PPR, non-PPR, very, very different. And again, running backs and receivers will be ranked differently based on your league rules.
And we know that, I mean, fantasy can be tough. I mean, there's no question. There's going to be injuries, things like that. Look at some running back positions with handcuffs. Don't be afraid to trade during the season. If you like somebody or you've identified some value, just kind of look at the big picture a little bit, but clearly know your league's rules again. I think it's so much more beneficial when you head into the draft. As we're going to kind of go through the segment, we're going to start out with quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, and kind of give you our studs, our breakouts, and our regression, and then kind of banter back and forth a little bit about it. So let's dive into it, Jay, and have some fun. We're going to start with, of course, the quarterback position. So my stud is Joe Burrow. I know that there's some guys in front of him that actually do it with their legs as well, but you look at that offense what the Bengals have. I mean, they're a pass-heavy offense. He should go around number 5. Around the 5th quarterback off the board. He led the league last season with over 4,900 yards passing, 43 touchdowns, and of course, he's got Chase and Higgins. And even though they've got Hendrickson back in the mix, that defense is not great. They look to be in a lot of shootouts, potentially trailing in games, even though, again, he's looked at as the number 5 quarterback. My stud is Joe Burrow.
Yeah, and again, when we refer to stud, we're talking about a quarterback that's got potential to be QB number 1, best quarterback in the league. Obviously, high ceiling, low floor, very safe pick. When I look at the guy that I think could be QB1, obviously we're talking about Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, all going kind of 1, 2, 3. I look at QB4, and I know that my stud is Jalen Hurts. Obviously on the World Championship Eagles, great rushing capability. Obviously the push-tush. Has A.J. Brown, has Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. He saw those guys banged up a lot last year. They didn't throw all that much, having so much success on the ground with Saquon Barkley. And they were up a lot in games, really not making him have to throw all that much. I think there's a better balance this year. I think Hurts throws more. And I've actually heard that the offense wants to play faster. They want to speed up the game. They want to get more plays. So I'm going to go and I'm going to reach, and I think Jalen Hurts is then going to end up as QB1 this year.
I don't think either one of them are reach. They're just kind of maybe outside that top 3 or so at 4 and 5, but I think both have the potential, based on kind of their teams and what we've heard about them, to be quarterback 1 or quarterback 2. Look now at kind of the breakout or sleeper. I'm going to go with Bo Nix of the Denver Broncos. He's kind of going in that quarterback 7 to 10 range. maybe in the 60 to 70 overall pick. And I think you look at Bo Nix, and he had 29 passing TDs last year, 4 rushing TDs. They added J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, and Evan Ingram to go with all 5 returning starters on the offensive line. And after he got off to that poor start last year, you look at Bo Nix. So from week 8 on, Nix was the overall quarterback 5 in fantasy. He finished the year as a quarterback 9 overall with a full season under his belt and in Sean Payton's offense. We saw what he did with Drew Brees. I think that Bo Nix is the closest quarterback in the league, or a clone a bit to Drew Brees. I think that Bo Nix takes that leap and will be a top 5 fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, and they've added some weapons around him, and obviously R.J. Harvey in the backfield is another guy that's going to be, catching balls out of the. And one thing that Nix did late in the season, he started to run a lot more.
And 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns as well last year.
We see those guys that are able to run the football from the quarterback position, able to put up big points. And again, this is our sleeper guy that we think is going to overperform or outperform his draft position. And I'm going to go, strangely enough, to the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams, being drafted as QB 14.
Such a homer.
QB 14 right now, and I'm drafting Caleb Williams more on the shoulders of what I believe and trust in Ben Johnson and what this offense is going to do. I think he has the weapons around him in DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. They go out and spend the 10th round, the 10th pick in the draft on Colston Loveland at the tight end position to add with Komet. We know Swift out of the backfield. When he was in Detroit with Ben Johnson, he was much more of a pass catcher than a runner. So I think at QB 14,
and maybe
Caleb
a steal of Luther Burden in the second round.
I think Caleb Williams has the potential to be a top 8 QB. So in his draft position at QB 14, I'll take Caleb Williams as my sleeper.
So our 2 kind of sleepers right now, Bo Nix and Caleb Williams. I think one more, a guy who's kind of going outside the top 10, is look at Brock Purdy. The last couple of years, he's finished as quarterback 12. They have the easiest schedule in the NFL. I think he has a chance to sneak into that top 10 as well. Looking at regression now, guys that we think might take a step back, I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield. I know he had the phenomenal year last year, but he's got injuries this year to McMillan and Godwin. His offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, is now the head coach of the Jags. And Mayfield is actually going higher than Nix in most drafts, and I think Nix can outperform him. So again, Baker signed the deal there. He was phenomenal last year, and they have the injury to Wirfs on the offensive line. I think that Baker Mayfield actually takes a little bit of a step back, and that's why I like Bo Nix so much more. But my regression candidate is Baker Mayfield.
I'm going to go, might be a shock to some people, guys going as quarterback 6, and that's Patrick Mahomes. It's tough to doubt Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs are continuously proving us wrong and winning games. But the fact that we just got the announcement today that Rashee Rice is going to be out for 6 games, he's heavily dependent on
6 games,
Xavier Worthy, again, a deep threat, guy that's been injury prone. Travis Kelce just announced his engagement to Mrs. Swift, so I don't know how much we're going to get out of Kelce.
Miss Swift.
Pacheco is, a good, solid running back. They do have to go up against some tough defenses. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm dead wrong here and Patrick Mahomes proves me wrong as quarterback 2 and throws 40 touchdowns again, but I just don't like the way it's shaping up. They talk about that they want to throw the ball deep again and they want to force the ball downfield. I just don't know without Rice. If we're talking about a Chiefs team again that just doesn't have the weapons and they play great defense and they play a slower game. So I'm going to take a shot and say that Patrick Mahomes doesn't finish as the QB 6 as he's being drafted, and I think he finishes outside the top 10.
Bo Nix makes that leap, guys. I'm telling you. All right, now we're going to move over to running backs. So for my stud running back, I'm going to go a little, rookie love here. I'm going to say Ashton Genty of the Las Vegas Raiders. I think just the pure volume that Genty's going to get. He's probably going to have 300, 350 carries. There's really nobody behind him. In that offense with Chip Kelly, I think he's going to get a lot. I'm going to throw one more in there too, and that's Bucky Irving of Tampa Bay. He's a running back 1 now there. I think he's going to have a huge breakout year. But I'm going to go with Genty and Irving, 2 guys now that you can get probably late, probably first, probably more like in mid-second to late second round. So maybe some value there as a lot of the running backs start going off the board.
Yeah, I'm going to go with my stud, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper. A guy that's going as running back 8, and that's Chase Brown, the running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this is an easy call. I think Chase Brown is a top 5 running back this year. He's got absolutely no competition in the backfield. And you talked about that Bengals team.
Right.
They're going to be in the top of the league from a scoring standpoint, and the defenses are getting stretched out trying to cover Higgins and Chase Brown is going to be the guy that benefits from that. He's your third down back, he's your goal line back, he's your every down back. He's getting the catches out of the backfield, and he's going to see a lot of the football. So a healthy Chase Brown is a top 5 fantasy back, currently going at 8. Go and get yourself as much Chase Brown as you can.
Another guy that really showed over the second half of the season last year that if he had those stats over a full year, he would have been a top 5, top 6 fantasy back. So Chase Brown is Jay's pick. So now for my breakout sleeper, I'm going to go with Jordan Mason of the Minnesota Vikings. Mason is a great fit as a zone runner in Kevin O'Connell's offense. He had 3 games with 20 or more carries and over 17 plus fantasy points last year with San Francisco. And I think you can pick him up late because he's not the starter there. So I think you look at that offense, and he is one injury away from the starter of being fantasy relevant and being a total stud. And I think it's going to be more of a timeshare there in Minnesota. So I think Jordan Mason is the guy who you can get pretty late in the draft, probably after the 8 to 10 rounds. Jordan Mason's my guy.
Yeah, I've got Jordan Mason as running back 33, and he was a guy that I was targeting as well from a sleeper standpoint because I think you're wrong. I actually think he is the 1A of the 1A.
That's
and
even
the 1B
more value, though, then, right?
Of the Aaron Jones running back in Minnesota. Aaron Jones is on the tail end, if not the end of his career. Jordan Mason, we saw what he did in San Francisco when he had the time. I think he's a great pick. I also
I think it's possible in that offense he is the goal line back as well, which is just going to add to scoring if Mason becomes that goal line back in that Minnesota offense with J.J. McCarthy.
I also like Braylon Allen going currently as running back 41. He is the backup running back to Breece Hall, but again, I don't think we're going to see Breece Hall be the A and Braylon Allen be the B and Justin Fields be the C. I think this Jet offense is going to look to run some more, and I think Braylon Allen's a good pick. But I'm going to go even deeper, and I'm looking at running back 37 and get to know this name, Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt. They call him Bill. He's the new running back for the Washington Commanders. They just traded Brian Washington Jr. to the San Francisco 49ers. Robinson to the 49ers. They've got Austin Eckler there, and they've got Chris Rodriguez there, who might be their goal line back. But I think this is the young man that as the season goes on, you're going to see Bill, Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt, be the guy that the Commanders go to for the big plays. And at running back 37, a lot of value there to take him late.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I know we've talked some rookies here, but I'm just going to throw one more out there too, and that's Omari Hampton for the Chargers. I mean, there's not a coach in the league that likes to run the ball more than Jim Harbaugh. I know Najee Harris is back, but I think he's got all the tools to be a running back 1, and he's not going until around the fourth round. My regression candidate, Jay, is Saquon Barkley. And I think it's just based on what he did last year. I mean, you look at last year, he had 482 total touches, 378 in the regular season, an additional 104 in the postseason. I think it was just the volume he had. They're going to look to spell him a lot more. If they've got leads, I think they take him out. I just think he's a prime candidate in that offense for a regression candidate this year.
Similar in thought process, my regression candidate currently going as running back 6 is Devon Achane for the Miami Dolphins. Already kind of banged up here in the preseason, supposedly has a calf issue. He's a PPR monster with the number of catches that he gets out of the backfield. But for me, he's so dependent on what the Miami Dolphins are doing and the health of Tua Tagovailoa. And he's a small back, so he's questionable around that goal line. They brought in a rookie, and Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State. Jalen Wright is still there. I'm just a little bit, and this is more in the going as running back 6, where you have to take him at either that late first round or early second round. I just don't know the value is there for a guy that has been so injury prone, and as we sit here today is a question mark to kind of go week 1. Probably going to go week 1, but we know how those calf issues are. That was what we saw out of McCaffrey last year, was the calf issue. So if Achane already has the calf issue, he's not a stay away, but at running back 6, I think there's too much value there. I'd like to get him maybe at the end of the second round or the third round if my league mates are scared of him, but I think he's a regression candidate to not finish within the top 10, and that's only because he doesn't play a couple games this year.
Reports are that he is going to play week 1, and I think you look at his stats when Tua is actually the quarterback and he's running back 2 overall. But that's a big if Tua's going to remain healthy and he's going to remain healthy. So just kind of things to consider a little bit as you look at your fantasy draft.
And he's another guy that you have to know the difference of you're playing in a half-point PPR or a full-point PPR. If you're playing in a full-point PPR, he's definitely elevated absolutely. To getting those more points with the passes. But I'm just really scared of the injury news as we sit here today.
So I'm going to look at we're going to go to wide receiver right now and look at studs. And I know you can talk about Jamar Chase, you can talk about CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. I'm going to go to a little bit further back. It's not crazy value, but I think this is a guy that could be wide receiver 1, and that's Malik Neighbors. I think you look at what he did last year, and who were his quarterbacks last year? Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, and Tommy DeVito. He finished at quarterback 7 last year. No matter who wins the starting job this year, if it's Wilson or Dart or Winston, it's a significant upgrade for him over what he had last year. This entire offense for the Giants goes through Malik Neighbors. I think when you look at him, he can easily be a top 5 fantasy wideout, and the Giants did not add a single weapon on offense to kind of challenge him. So I think with the upgraded quarterback play, for me, Malik Neighbors can easily finish in the top 3 in fantasy football wideouts.
Yeah, I'm going to just support Neighbors there a little bit. He had 170 targets last year. I think that was only second
to Chase.
Jamar Chase's 175. My only hesitation with Neighbors at this point in time is Russell Wilson, who just doesn't chuck the ball deep the way he used to. So Neighbors is that deep route, such that deep threat. And I don't know that Russell Wilson has the arm anymore. Now, if they bring in Jackson Dart or Jameis Winston, man,
which easily could happen though early in the season.
Bombs away to Neighbors. But again, I'm just a little concerned that Russell Wilson, and again, you talked about the quarterbacks he was playing with. Russell Wilson should still be elevated above that.
I mean, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and you think about the struggles of Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, and Tommy DeVito, which were running with their back to the line of the scrimmage most of the time, and Neighbors was able to achieve this. I just think whoever one of those 3 starts, it's such an upgrade for Malik Neighbors, and that entire offense runs through him. And I still truly believe that within week 4 to 6, if that Giant team is struggling, Jackson Dart is going to be the starting quarterback for the G-Men.
My stud, currently going as wide receiver 8, Brian Thomas of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that he's misplaced here as wide receiver 8. I think he's easily a top 5 finisher, and mostly because of the coaching change that we're seeing in Jacksonville. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach last year is now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Liam Cohen. We saw what he did for Baker Mayfield. We saw the development of the wide receivers there. Trevor Lawrence going to lean on Brian Thomas. Obviously, they add Travis Hunter to the mix, but I don't think that this team runs the ball nearly as much. I don't think that they run the ball near the goal line nearly as much. I think that we're seeing Brian Thomas Jr. closer to that 160, 165 targets that we saw out of Chase and Neighbors, and I think Brian Thomas leapfrogs into the top 5. So again, target Brian Thomas as your stud wide receiver.
Because we're talking about these guys at the top, if it's Chase, if it's Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, but I think both these 2 receivers in Neighbors and Thomas can easily sneak into the top 3 to 5, in my opinion. We're going to look at now breakout candidates, and my breakout wide receiver is Ricky Pearsall of the 49ers. I think you look at the Niners, they've got an extremely easy schedule this year. There still is some wide receiver drama there. Brandon Ayuk is still recovering from an ACL. Jennings has a calf injury and some contract disputes. Demarcus Robinson is suspended for the first 3 games. And I just think you look at Pearsall and everything you saw at the end of last year and what you're hearing through practice this year, that he has a great rapport with Brock Purdy. So I think in George Kittle's case, and Ricky Pearsall, they're going to be the two guys that offense goes through in the air. So for me, the breakout candidate is Ricky Pearsall of the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, and you're getting him in a nice draft spot. Definitely a starter, and
right.
I couldn't agree with you more on Pearsall. Matthew Berry always introduces his ride or die, right? The guy that he wants more than anybody else. And I think his Omarion Hampton, running back for the Chargers, is his ride or die. I'm going to tell you that my ride or die this year, my breakout wide receiver, currently going as wide receiver 37, Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Chris Godwin is not going to be healthy to start the season. Jalen McMillan, who we saw have an absolutely fantastic second half, probably going to be out for at least 6 games, could be closer to 9 games.
He could miss the season, they're
saying.
So
it is the Mike Evans / Emeka Egbuka show, maybe some K-Dot and thrown in there, but they have raved about this guy in the preseason, raved about him down in camp. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be bold here, but Emeka Egbuka gains more yards than Mike Evans. I think Emeka Egbuka has a 1,200-yard season, potentially 12 touchdowns. Go get him in every draft that you do. Trust me on this Tampa Bay rookie.
There you go. You heard it here now. Don't forget. And I'm the one who gave you the regression candidate as Baker Mayfield. So something has to give here, guys. I'm just, all right, regression candidate now. For me, it's Puka Nacua, and it's for a couple of reasons. I know he's a really talented wideout, and he figures to go in that first kind of 10 to 12. But I think Neighbors and Brian Thomas are both going to have better seasons than he does. For me, it's that you add Devontae Adams to the mix, but it's the health of Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford hasn't been healthy all preseason, and if Stafford's not there, that offense is going to take a huge hit. Nakua's been banged up a little bit too, and over the last 2 years combined, he's got a total, I think, of 8 touchdowns. He just doesn't score like some of the other guys do, and now he's going to have to share that a bit with Devontae Adams. So my regression candidate, although he's going in the top 15, 18 of almost all drafts, is Puka Nacua, and mainly because of Devontae Adams and the injuries to Matt Stafford.
My regression candidate, currently going as wide receiver 5. He's finished the last 2 years as wide receiver 3. May shock you, but I'm going to take Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Detroit Lions. Commonly, and when you look at the top pass receivers in the National Football League, Chase, Lamb, Jefferson, Brown, Thomas, Neighbors, these guys are catching about 66% of the balls that are thrown to them. Targets versus receptions. Chase had an exceptional year last year. He was 72% of the balls that he caught. 72% of the balls thrown to him he caught. Again, most of those guys are around 66. Amon-Ra St. Brown last year, 141 targets, 115 receptions. That's an 81.5% completion percentage. There is no way him and Goff do that again this year. And again, I think that's a pullback. I think obviously the loss of Ben Johnson is a pullback to Detroit Lions. I think Jahmyr Gibbs at the running back position is a hand the ball off, try and get him the ball more. Again, pulls back from around St. Brown.
They've been lining Gibbs up in practice a lot in the slot. So he's going to be more as a wideout sometimes. I think him and Montgomery both might be on the field a lot more this year together.
And Jamison Williams, the wideout on the other side of the field, is also developing, and they're raving about him in camp. So while I like St. Brown, and at wide receiver 5, he's a safe pick, to get him and expect a high ceiling this year, I think it comes back a little bit more to earth. So I'm going to regression. I'll say that he falls back to about wide receiver 8, wide receiver 9 from an overall standpoint with some of the guys leapfrogging, but a regression on St. Brown.
All right, so we're going to jump to tight ends right now. And I'm not going crazy here, but my stud is George Kittle. I know he's the 3rd tight end off the board, but I think he should be the 1st tight end off the board. I could see a little bit of regression maybe with Brock Bowers. Trey McBride didn't score a lot last year. I just think George Kittle, with the injuries I touched on earlier at the wideout position for San Francisco, and Purdy having the easiest schedule in the league, I think Kittle is going to be that main target, especially in the red zone for the 49ers. And for me, the stud is George Kittle. I think he should be the 1st tight end off the board.
Yeah, and you can't argue with what he did last year. The only caution I have, I have no worries about taking him third, just on sheer volume, what he should catch. My only worry there is what you talked about, the red zone, because they didn't have Christian McCaffrey last year. And when they get Christian McCaffrey back this year, inside that 7-yard line, I'm giving it to Christian McCaffrey, I'm giving it to Christian McCaffrey, and I'm giving it to Christian McCaffrey.
But it also may force them to put another guy in the box to prevent Christian McCaffrey. And who does that open up? But George Kittle.
My stud, you talk about tight end 3. I'm going to go right in front of him and take tight end 2. And I think he should actually, I think he's actually going to leapfrog Bowers this year. I think Bowers, with the Raiders, he had such an incredible rookie season. I don't know that he matches it with the coaching changes, trying to get a little bit more involved with everybody else, and the addition of Genty to the Raiders. I think Bowers takes a hair of a step back, and I think that tight end 2, Trey McBride, becomes tight end 1. He had 111 receptions last year for just short of 1,200 yards, but the big thing, he only had 2 touchdowns.
I know.
Absolutely crazy.
And they were really late in the season.
He almost went the whole season without a touchdown. It's absolutely not going to happen this year. He's weapon 1 on the Cardinal team. Marvin Harrison is weapon 2. This offense is going to continue to force feed McBride. He's going to end up with another 110 receptions, probably 1,200 yards, and probably closer to 11 or 12 touchdowns. He's tight end number 1. Go get some Trey McBride.
Yeah, I think all 3 of those guys, though, if it's Bowers, if it's McBride, if it's Kittle, those are the 3 guys you really want to get. If you don't get one of those 3 guys early, I think you have to wait, and we'll touch on that now as who we think some of our kind of sleeper or breakout candidates are. But I think there's a huge drop-off after those 3. So for me, my breakout or sleeper, I actually have 2. One, I know he's going to yell at me for having 2. My first one is Packers tight end Tucker Kraft. He led all Packer wide receivers last year with 7 touchdowns. He is going in the range of the 11th or 12th tight end off the board, or maybe not even getting drafted on draft night. He could easily slip into the top 10. I mean, you just look at this guy. Not only did he lead Packers with 7 tight ends, he led all tight ends last year in yards after catch. I think in that offense, they've got a lot of really good wideouts. Maybe not that alpha dog, but I think Tucker Kraft is going to be a guy that finishes in the top 10 in tight ends. You might be able to get him after that or as a waiver wire pickup after the draft goes. For me, it's Tucker Kraft.
I couldn't agree with you more on Tucker Kraft. Watson being out, obviously we got the young rookie in Golden at wide receiver, Reed, some question marks. But the big thing about the Packers last year was the health of Jordan Love.
Right.
He got hurt early in the year, basically was fighting injury all year, and Kraft was still able to put up big numbers. And talk about the guy that they're going to be targeting in the red zone because they don't have those big receivers. It's Tucker Kraft. I'm going to go a little bit deeper. And I think you should target Colston Loveland, the tight end for the Chicago Bears. And again, I know the love that I have for Caleb Williams, and I think that this is the love that I have for Williams and the love that I have for Ben Johnson. It's going to shine here in Colston Loveland.
What's your favorite team again?
The Bears did not go take this guy with the 10th pick in the draft to not utilize him. And I'm going to go back to some stats just to support why I think Colston Loveland is going to have a big rookie year. 2 years ago, in Detroit, underneath Ben Johnson, the Detroit Lions introduced us to a young man named Sam Laporta in his rookie season. In his rookie season with the Lions, he had 86 receptions for 856 yards and 10 touchdowns. Let me introduce you to Colston Loveland, who's going to be the Sam Laporta of the rookie season for the Bears. They are going to stretch it out with DJ Moore. They're going to stretch it out with Rome Odunze, and they're going to have Colston Loveland be the safeguard guy for Caleb Williams. Go get Colston Loveland, put him in your lineup, and have a lot of fun with it. And I'm going to lead before you get to the regression candidate, because I'm going to tell you my regression candidate goes back to Detroit, and Amon St. Brown is going to be a regression candidate on the wide receiver, and I'm going to go to that same Sam Laporta as my regression candidate.
We can't tell that you're a Bear fan at all.
For the tight end position. Laporta, under Johnson, 86, 856, and 10 in his rookie season. Last year, 60 receptions for 726 yards and 7 touchdowns. And again, good stats for a tight end, but currently this year going as tight end 5. And with those stats, with the development of Williams, and again, the running back committee of Montgomery, and again, losing Ben Johnson, I just think Detroit is not going to be that high-flying offense. I think they're really going to focus on running the ball with Montgomery and Gibbs. And so I'm going to pull back on Amon St. Brown, and I'm going to pull back on Laporta. Again, a good tight end, a solid tight end. But at tight end 5, I think there's too much value where you're taking him. I think he ends up more in the tight end 10 range.
I'm going to give you another guy that I really like a lot this year, and that's Evan Ingram of the Broncos. I think he's going to be that same type of tight end that Sean Payton had with the Saints and Jimmy Graham. I think you look at what we've added now in Denver, if it's J.K. Dobbins or R.J. Harvey at running back, but you add that underneath guy now, and the way that offense runs with those stretch plays, Evan Ingram, with his yak and his yard after catch, is going to be phenomenal. In 2023, he had 111 receptions. I think in Sean Payton's offense, he's going to be that guy again, be that safety valve for Bo Nix. I said I loved Bo Nix as my breakout guy or my sleeper at quarterback. I think Evan Ingram, along with Tucker Kraft, I think those two guys, you can get outside of the top 8 or 10, both have potential to be top 5 tight ends.
You know, one tight end that going really late in drafts that's intriguing to me, not sure what and how the Indianapolis Colts are going to use him, but they drafted Ty Warren, the great tight end out of Penn State, and Penn State used him in a lot of different roles, specifically kind of moving to quarterback and taking the push-tush. And obviously the Colts have an incredible running back in Jonathan Taylor. They have a very, very good offensive line. Tyler Warren could have a good season as a tight end catching balls and put up good numbers, but if for some reason the Indianapolis Colts go to Ty Warren as a push-tush type tight end to go in there and get those goal line carries, Tyler Warren could be a steal of the draft if he can find a way to get 4 or 5 touchdowns in a push-tush offense. So late, got those extra picks, maybe a guy that you can add to your bench if you have, but check out Ty Warren, a tight end for the Indianapolis Colts.
All right, so my regression, you already gave yours at tight end. For me, it's going to be Pat Freiermuth of the Steelers. They go out and they get Jonnu Smith. And I know that Aaron Rodgers relies on his tight end a lot, but in almost every fantasy draft that you see now, Smith is going a good couple of rounds before Freiermuth. I always liked Freiermuth there. I thought he was a great safety valve for whoever the quarterback was, but they went out and got Jonnu Smith. Even if it's in a 2 tight end set, I really think he's going to have the bigger upside. So my regression candidate right now is Steelers tight end Pat Freiermuth. So we kind of broke it down for you guys, and again, have fun with your fantasy drafts, but really know your league. You have to know the rules that are in your fantasy draft. I think it prepares you so much more. Don't be afraid to draft a guy you really like. Don't be afraid to get rid of a guy that's underperforming. And then when it comes to a trade, if it can help your team, go out and get that guy whenever you have a chance. Fantasy football is always a lot of fun. We just gave you some tidbits that we like right now. We've got some drafts coming up, but we'll see how it all unfolds. But for Jason and Chucky, for STN Sports and the Sports Betting Podcast Bookends, good luck this football season. Good luck with your fantasy drafts. And we look forward to seeing all you guys here, not only at Red Rock, but all of our STN properties throughout the Valley.